We flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. Coin flip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby? Go time, baby.
We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We all we got. We all we got. We all we got.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We advance, nothing less.
You don't like this? Trust me, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down that throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull?
Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest.
Game time! Game time!
Welcome, everybody, to week one of the Coin Flip 2023 NFL kickoff week. Exciting times. We always love NFL. We watched a good game last night, a little sloppy at times. We see that almost every year, week one. We see the biggest improvements from week one to week two, not only in NFL, but also college football. Big week this week, 13-game main slate. Looking forward to it. As we saw last night, I don't want to say expect the unexpected, but you can have a little bit of take your gut guesses and run with them a little bit this week. Nobody knows everything or, most of everything that they think they do, especially in DFS, especially you got 13-game slate. Anything can happen. So if you get a pretty good gut feeling, especially if you're on a unique type setup, week one's a great week to run with it. College football, same way, a little bit tougher over there because you don't even get a preseason. You really don't even get the who's inactive, active type stuff. So it's even harder to dial into, some key spots to take advantage of. We've done a great job this year. Bobby's been killing it with college football. I chime in where I can, but the first couple weeks has been awesome. Looking forward to got a little 2-game slate tonight and then a big Saturday slate again tomorrow. Come check that out if you like. Right now, you can get on the site, NFL 30, get you 30% off through Monday night. So we'll go all the way through the Monday Night Football game. So last time we'll do a kind of a discount until probably may do something for PGA kickoff, but it may just be through till the Masters. We'll have a big push going to the Masters. Right now, between now and December, we're not overhauling because we just did a big overhaul in the golf tools, but adding a whole bunch of things that we've been wanting to add on top of all the new stuff we put out this year. So we'll unveil a much bigger toolbox there for golf tools once we get to January. So I'm excited for that. But well before that, we get a lot of football ahead of us. It is early Friday morning. I'll put this out around lunch. Typically, we'll probably do these on Thursdays. This week, I like to wait because you get a lot of people chomping at the bit, antsy. Some people, they just got to put all the content out, right? They that's their setup, the way they run. I do this to help the community out. So I don't need to do 6 shows a week or anything like that. I'm not trying to get revenue off of the videos and the content. If stuff comes from that or with partners, like we're partners with Prize Picks and Underdog, and they've been great to us, that's fine. But I like to listen and take in as much as I can because I think you can take advantage of a lot of that on week one. I'll typically have these out on Thursday, maybe even Wednesday night, depending on the week goes. It's just, I want it to be relevant to the people that aren't members. Obviously, the best information is going to come, in my opinion, later on today, all the way through, obviously Sunday morning. But when you see who traveled, who didn't, you get a better idea who's inactive, active. That can change a slate dramatically. So I don't want to put out a pod, 4 days before game day that's irrelevant to the people that aren't members yet. I want to be fair to the guys that do listen to us. If you'd like to join, again, great time to do it. It does include a 7-day risk-free trial. Had a bunch of people join over the last 2 weeks with the hot run in college football. I went 9-4 last week on betting. I'll release that card later on today, as well as add to the NFL card throughout the week. Typical setup for me, as I've been doing, we'll do the playbook, which is my plays, fades, and values in each position. I'll give my favorite stacks, main and mini correlated stacks, my 2 favorite spreads of the week. If you're any kind of super contest, circa millions, or you have a home league that does something like that, I'll give out my 2 favorite as we sit here. Upset of the week, my survivor pick of the week, and then we got some Prize Pick and Underdog information and plays below as well. Like I said, it's a 13-game slate, double-digit Ravens are the only double-digit favorite this week at -10. Pretty tight spreads across the week. A lot tighter than, I don't say typically, but it does seem like Vegas expects a lot of close, maybe sloppyish, like we saw last night. What was it? 21-20 was the final. I like the Chiefs because I felt we were getting some value. I don't want to say overreaction to the Kelsey Jones deal, but I just felt it was, at home, the Mahomes would probably get it done. And they probably should have. They were sloppy, got the pick six, stuff like that. But Detroit, give them credit. I mean, they played well, finished the game off. I think we see some of that this week. There's going to be some spots where we see it every year, especially like survivor picks. Everybody knows like week 1, 2, 3, how many times you see like a massive chalk play, just outright win, right? Just collapse the survivor pool. So keep that in mind as you're building and trying to get unique, and keep your contest selection in mind. Are you in a contest with 200,000 people or 300 people? Those matter on how big of a uniqueness you need to get on the week. Ownership, there's 6 road favorites as well this week, which is kind of a lot. But again, tight spread. So we're talking 2 to 4 point favorites. We got the Washington 7. Like I said, the Ravens are 10. Pretty much everybody else is between 1 and 5 on the spread. So do have some road favorites. 6 is a little high, but they're not huge favorites right now for this time of the year. Ownership the same way. I think pricing was fairly good this year for whatever reason they continue to put it out a month early. I know it's to get hype up and all that, but I think the Cleveland-Cincinnati game could get steamed up to be probably one of the higher owns. The next 5 games are all real tight in ownership. Packers, Jags, Seattle maybe a little bit on the Rams. Washington, I think, will be one of the higher owned as a solo. I don't think Arizona gets much, so that the game won't be high, but I think Washington definitely will in that situation. And then you get a big chunk of people that are all, very tightly on game ownership, team ownership, which is nice because you got several places to go this week where you can be unique. If you're right, and it pays off well. You don't have to eat chalk by any means. There's not a lot of, to me, as I went through everything and then getting ready for the pod, a lot of, I can't avoid playing that chalk type of deal. Like last night, I locked in Mahomes. He was either in captain or main, and he wound up being in the optimal at the end. It was just hard to see a scenario of him not being in the optimal minus injury, right? So you're taking a chance on him getting injured. Outside of that, just the way the game was going to set up, no Kelsey type of situation, that he was probably going to be involved in the optimal, whether it was captain or flex type of deal. I don't see anything like that. You rarely do on the NFL slate where you're like, man, you got to lock him. There's some good plays, but I think there's equally good plays around the same price or ownership on some of those, early chalk stuff. We're still Friday morning. I know it seems late in the week, but there's still a lot that'll change in the next 48 hours, which is always key to be a part of the membership. And we go through stuff all the way up until lock. I'll do a live show Sunday morning as well, as we're kind of getting that inactive active feelings going on. We'll kick it off with quarterbacks this week. I try to keep this just straightforward. I know there's a ton of NFL pods out there, even way more than even golf. So I want it to be in that 30-minute range. So you guys, even if you put it on that 1.25, 1.5x, you can knock it out real quick. Quarterbacks for me, I like Lamar. I don't think there's going to be – I think Sam Howell probably wind up being the chalkiest quarterback, 4,900 against the Cardinals. He'll probably get in that double digit. And I think you get 4 or 5 guys, Lawrence, Herbert, Hurts, Lamar, and Burrow. And Burrow – we'll see. It should be a good play, but do people feel comfortable with the injury? Blah blah blah. Obviously, signed a massive contract yesterday, so Cincinnati feels good about him. But I think Lamar will be my favorite. He is the biggest favorite of the week. But I just anticipate him coming out and like showing, this is why I got paid what I got paid. Plus, he's got weapons galore. A little more new offense. I think he throws a little more than usual. I think Andrews plays, so I think they're loaded up to do really well. I guess the hope would be does Houston put up enough fight that it keeps the scoring going for them. But Baltimore could, blow them out or be up big, and Lamar be a big part of that. So the 8,000 I think keeps him a little lower because he is the highest priced. I think people go, I'll just go Jalen for a little less, or I'll take a chance on Burrow 900 less, or Justin Fields is probably the step down from those 5 I listed. He's $300 less, and I don't mind him either, but I like Lamar's surroundings better than the Fields in that situation for the $300. Next will be Herbert, a guy I hardly ever played last year. $6,900 feels like a really good price. He is in this, ownership. He's going to be up there with those guys like I mentioned. I think everybody's healthy for once. I think it's a pretty good opportunity to stack him. Whether it be, eat a little bit of the chalk, or maybe you get Eckler in there, who I don't think will be high owned at 8,400, or at least higher owned than some of the guys around him. Quentin Johnson is a guy I'm pretty high on rookies. In general, you'll hear me be higher on rookies early at the wide receiver spot, because not more times than not, but here lately you've seen rookies pay off early, and I want to be ahead of them when they do. And guys that I watched a lot of in college football that I feel can do that, I may jump on them. Johnson's got enough other guys that seeking the ball from Herbert that he would be a flyer, but you have ways to use Herbert, get different, good game environment. I think it is the highest game total on the slate. So yeah, it is. So I like that in general. And no one's getting out of reach on ownership at quarterback. So those are the two I like the most. Values, I like Cousins. I think he's going to be in that 2 to 4% range at home against Tampa Bay. I don't think Tampa Bay wins or anything, but I think Baker and them will give a fight, especially first game of the year. 6,300. I like what he's got. I like Jordan Addison a lot. He's one of those rookie wide receivers I'm talking about. I don't mind going there. Obviously, Jefferson, Hawkinson, those guys will be a part of some stacks. But I think for that price, 6,300, and the low ownership, he's a good value play. And for me, value, if you're new, is going to be ownership or price. So or both. He's 6,300 is not cheap, but the 2 to 4% in there makes him a value play to me. Next one, Anthony Richardson. I like the Colts this week. I think they put up a fight against the Jaguars. Jaguars are everybody's, automatic going to win the South, this and that. This is a clear spot where I think people will go, oh, there's no way Jags lose. They could be, if the Ravens weren't on the slate, or even Washington, I think they would be one of the guys people consider for Survivor, other than they're going to be on the road. But I do think a lot of people think Jags just roll. I don't know that Richardson tears it up or nothing, but with his legs and the ability at $5,600, 2%, is he worth a flyer or a good value play? I think so. And you can play him naked. But he's got weapons, Pittman. I think Grant will be, decently chalky out of the backfield. Obviously with Taylor not being there. Deion Jackson, I'm sorry. But especially 4,100. But I don't think a stack with the Colts will be popular. I think people just pick here or there. I got Richardson around 2% right now. So I think that's a good value play. My fade right now will be Hurts. I like Hurts a lot, last year at OU and played great last year. If I'm going up here, comparing him to who he's around, he's on the road at the Patriots. Belichick's out all summer. A lot more negatives, lower game total than some of the other higher price guys that he'd be the guy that I'd be off of when you're talking about up top for quarterbacks. Again, there's not a huge ownership deal here. I don't know that I get to Sam Howell either at that ownership. That's kind of the 4,900 makes sense. If you go there, you certainly want to try to be unique and be different on the other pay up spins that you get there. If you go that route, you don't go Howell and go to the chalk, pay up at wide receiver or running back with your little Washington stack that you do. Running backs, I like Madison. I think Cook was strong, but Madison, anytime he got in there or filled in for Cook, he did well. He's around that 10% range right now in ownership. Not too bad. 6,500. Again, they are at home. I think that's just a good play overall. I'm not paying up too crazy there. Ownership isn't out, super high owned. So I don't mind that at all. He can be in stacks. He doesn't have to be in stacks. You could just play him. Obviously, I like Minnesota, being that I like Cousins as well. But I think that's a good price and good ownership to get to this week. Ramondre Stevenson, same deal. 7,000, probably keeps his ownership down to 8 to 10%. Philly's replacing a lot of key spots there in the middle of the defense. I think they're going to try to establish the run. They probably want to control the clock if they have everything as they need it. They'll throw it for sure, but I do think they want to run. And I think Philly, young, a lot of newer guys are replacing from the Super Bowl team, a lot back, but I do think that's a spot for Ramondre to pay off. And at the price, I think his ownership stays in check enough that I don't mind getting some of that this week. Nick Chubb. I like Chubb this week. You'll hear it in a minute. I'm kind of off the whole Cleveland passing game, and I think that's going to be somewhat of a chalky spot people go to. I'd rather get in that game environment and just go Chubb and kind of fade the passing game, the wide receivers, and probably even the tight end. And that way, I'm still in a game environment that I don't mind. I think Chubb will do well. $8,200 is going to keep him in that 5 to 6% range. Hunt's not there no more. There's a lot there I like about Chubb. At that price, if I'm paying up, he's definitely on my list. Values for me, I like Javonte Williams. I know he's coming off the injury, which is going to keep his ownership way down. But at $5,700, I think I loved him last year. I played him a ton last year as a rookie. I think he's healthy enough. I think he'll have a good game. If you're looking to pay down, save some money there. Again, $5,700 is not super, super cheap, but it's cheap enough to help the builds out that I like him. And I like Khalil Herbert, Chicago. I think he can catch the ball in the backfield if they need it. Green Bay's D is decent, but, not world beaters or anything like that. You get a 6, 7, 8%. Herbert, $5,300. I don't mind going there at all for some value. My fade will be Jamal Williams. Clearly the chalk right now. Well, him and Walker are two of the higher, but $5,100 for the Saints against the Titans. It's not a bad play. It's just an ownership spot that I think I can get different elsewhere and not eat that chalk at running back right now. Now, cash game, stuff like that, yeah, he's probably a good cash game player, but tournaments, 3-max, stuff like that, I think I'd be off him this week. Wide receivers, I like Devontae Adams. Where do I have him? Somewhat low owned, but $7,900 again. I think so many wide receivers are really priced up that you're going to have to make some decisions there. Of those guys up there, he's one of the lower owned, even though he's still going to be around 9-10%. But Jefferson, Hill, Chase, those kind of guys are going to get plenty of ownership. Now that Kupp's out, that opens up some of the board as well. So I don't mind going there as a one-off. He can dominate a game. He can do well. I think in general, he's going to have a big season this year. And I think Jimmy G will probably, look to get him started early. It's just a good for me. And I think Denver's going to score. I think this could be a good potential over game. I think the total's around 44 or so. That's a guy I don't mind paying up for this weekend. Be a little bit different. Judy, right back in that same game. I think it's a little bit higher scoring game. Obviously a rivalry game, but so much new about both these teams that I think it's a spot worth getting to. I got Judy around 3% right now, $6,600. I think he could do really, really well in this system. If Wilson improves just being in the system at all, I don't mind going to that this week. And then Jefferson is probably my spend up that I like the most, $8,800. I like him over Tyreek. I like him over Chase this week. More so because I like that stack in general. Like I don't mind going Cousins, Jefferson, and maybe I take a chance on Addison, who's not going to be that high owned, or the obvious would be Cousins, Jefferson, Hawkinson type deal. So I'll have plenty of Jefferson mixed and matched within my stacks this week. Value plays for me, I'm kind of high on Atlanta in general this year and this week. Carolina, we've seen they got a decent defense. Offense is not very good at all right now. The O-line is struggling. But I like London, $5,400. I think he could have a really good year. I think Ritter could have a good year in general. And I think they get off to a hot start at home against the Panthers. So I don't mind going there. He's around that 5% mark. Flowers, he's showing low ownership for me right now, but I think he winds up getting a little more steam. Man, he looks so he was a stud in college. First of all, I was super high on him coming out of college. Looked good in the limited preseason we saw against Houston. Again, I like Lamar, so he's a cheap guy too, 4,000 that I can pair with Lamar. If Andrews is healthy, you go Lamar, Flowers, and Andrews. That's a pretty. That 4,000 helps offset those other two high price a little bit, so I don't mind going there. Puka out of the Rams, I think gets a big boost. I was already liking him. Watched him a lot in college at BYU. My boy Adon is high on him as well in general. 3K flat. I'm interested to see where his ownership gets to or the buzz gets to. I hadn't listened to a ton of football pods. That'll be some of my stuff I do all day today, as I'm working, driving around, stuff like that. But, he's 3K flat. Cooper Kupp's out. This guy can kind of fill that role. I'm not saying he's going to be Cooper, but I think he could get there. And at that price, it really opens up some things. So I like him a lot. If he gets super chalky or talked up, maybe I take a different look at it. But man, I think he pays off that 3K pretty easy this week. My fade, I already kind of mentioned it, kind of off the Browns wide receivers in general. And then outside of that, Christian Kirk is a guy that looks to be one of the top 3 or 4 potentially owned right now. Top 5 for sure, $5,600. And I get it. You know, they're at Indy. A lot of people are going to be high on Jacksonville. That's just a guy that I probably, cross off for me this week. Tight ends, I go Andrews. He's pretty easy. I like Andrews and Hawkinson. If I'm going value, it would be Pitts. Again, I'm high on Atlanta. 2% for him right now, $4,500. There's some guys in there if you're not wanting to pay up at tight end, but I do think this week I pay up. It's just a week that I'm going to do. I'll go Anderson. I'll go Hawkinson. Pickinson, if I want to save some money, Pitts at $4,500. Or if I'm doing stacks, I'll go find that quarterback's tight end if I want to mix and match it. Everett is $4,300 for the Chargers, stuff like that. But the two I like the most is pretty easy for me this week, Andrews and Hawkinson. My fade probably be, Njoku, just the whole Cleveland deal in general. I want Watson to prove it to me before, and I don't want to eat just a chalky Cleveland stack this week. So that's just the only reason there. He would be the guy I would like to play the most if I wanted to do a one-off. If I wasn't doing a stack or anything, I would like him because Elijah Moore's looking so popular. I do like Elijah Moore. He's won me a lot when he was with the Jets early. He was a guy I played early, and he won me a showdown one day, 5-figure showdown. I like him. He just looks like he's going to be super popular. Now, I do think Puka coming in at 3K could make Elijah a lot less owned, but those are the two that I would take an eye on for one-offs in Cleveland. I just don't want to stack them this week at all. Defense, I like the Ravens. There are times I'll pay up for defense throughout the year. I know the general consensus is to go find a cheap D. Doesn't matter. No one knows. I get all that, but I think Houston could struggle. Rookie quarterback, things like that, $4,000. The other one would be the Falcons because I do think Carolina really could struggle. And for $800 less, I almost like them more. And I think Carolina's offense is in the worst shape right now to give up the sacks and stuff like that. We saw Atlanta's D, flash a little bit in the preseason with a couple defensive touchdowns. So I don't mind either one of those. Washington will be the chalk by far, $2,800 against the Cardinals at home. If you have a unique kind of player pool and you want to throw them in, I don't hate it. Browns is another one. I think they can get pressure on Joey B. He gets sacked more than you would think, or maybe not. Maybe people do think it. They're $2,600. I think they'd be a good pivot off of Washington and much lower ownership if you wanted to go that route. Some gut feel plays for me this week. I already mentioned Ritter, $4,900. I think that's a great pivot off of Howell. I think he has just as much upside, honestly. And for a tenth of the ownership, I like him a lot this week. Dobbins for Baltimore. Maybe he's a one-off play. If you're not doing Baltimore stacks, maybe you stack him in there with them. Either way, I don't mind that. Henry, who's a guy who generally just so owned, not hearing much out of him so far. Maybe I hadn't listened to the right stuff yet. Like I mentioned, I got a lot of stuff to listen to today. But $7,800, 5%. I don't mind that. Quentin Johnson, who I mentioned earlier, he's a guy I'm high on early in the season. And then Debo. I think Debo is a good play. You can one-off it. CMC is going to get his ownership, but Debo could be 4 or 5% at $5,500. I don't think they're going to stop using him. I mean, he was tremendous over the last couple of years, so I don't mind him either. My main stacks of the week, I like the Vikings. Mix and match however you want there. And then the Ravens. Again, mix and match there how you please. And if Andrews is out, no pun intended, I like Likely, and we'll play him just as equally as Andrews. Just he's a lot cheaper for us, right? So that doesn't worry me. I think Andrews plays, but if for some reason he winds up not playing, I'll just slide in Likely there all day long. Some mini correlated stacks I don't mind. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. I think that's a good one in that environment I talked about. I think could be a good over game. I just mentioned Henry. You can go Henry Hopkins. Good mini stack. Maybe you have a cheap build. Maybe you're building like Atlanta or something like that. Those are some higher price guys you could do a 2-man stack with. And then Javonte Williams, Jerry Jeudy. I mentioned that earlier. I'm not as high on Russell Wilson, so I don't know that I want to go full on stack there, but I like those two for a 2-man stack. Maybe you're doing a Raiders stack and you run it back with those two. Or the other side, you do a Denver stack and you run it back with, Jacobs and Adams. Something like that can work as well this week. My sneaky stack of the week, it's kind of a tie. I think Atlanta or the Colts. I lean Atlanta because Ritter's cheaper, a little less on the radar than Richardson. and I think has better weapons. Both are at home. I think either one of those teams, if you stack them up, you're going to have a extremely low unique stack, cheap too, that allows you to pay up for, throw in a Jefferson, or maybe go Madison Jefferson with a Colt stack or a Falcon stack, whatever. That lets you happen. You can do that. McCaffrey, Debo, that's expensive to an extent. You do that with a Colts or a Falcon stack, you can pay up for those kind of guys there. My favorite spreads this week, I like the Colts plus 4.5, Falcons minus 3.5. My upset of the week, definition just by their underdog, I'm going to go with the Jets beating the Bills on Monday Night Football. My survivor play of the week, I'm not getting cute early. I think you go Washington or Baltimore, but I'm going to go Baltimore. I think they get the win fairly easy. Underdog, links in the description. Partners with us again. Partners for PGA as well. Them and Prize Pick. Same code GUP, GUP. Dollar for dollar match up to $100. Links in the description. You want to check that out. They got the mini. Obviously, the best balls are over now. Hopefully, I saw a ton of chatter about that all summer long, all the way up till almost lock yesterday. So hopefully you took advantage of those. The mini royal is up. $5 to enter, 150,000 prizes for week 1. The Dog Bowl qualifier 1 is up. This is something new. I checked it out a little bit before the pod. 200,000 at first, $1 million in total prizes. It looks like weekly competitions to get you qualified to that. $10 to enter. You can go check that out on their site. It looks interesting. I'm gonna deep dive into that a little bit more. And then they always have Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday Night Football drafts. One-offs as well as week 1. I think last night it was like 50,000 in the pot. So you can go check all those prizes out over at Underdog. And then Prize Picks. My 6 for week 1. They give you the Dak one over 1 yard passing, so that's a free square. I like Lamar over 224.5 passing, Aaron Rodgers over 237.5, Hawkinson over 47.5 receiving, Puka over 23.5. I jump on that early. I bet that goes up. And then Ramondre Stevenson over 56.5. So those are my 6-pack. I think it pays 25 to 30x. You get a free square unless Dak gets hurt on the very first play or something. Use that code, load up. You can do $20, $10. They match it all the way up to $100. So go take advantage of that right now as well. Remember, NFL 30 gets you 30% off any package on the site. Locked in for life, includes a risk-free 7-day trial. We got college football again. We've been crushing it over there. My bets have been killing it. Ready for NFL. It's going to be a great week 1. PGA returns next week. We'll be doing light PGA. Still waiting to kind of see how they're setting it up because, again, the season doesn't start till January now, so they'll have some fall events. No FedEx Cup in there. Interested to kind of see the contest, the field, stuff like that. I'll still put, my rankings, probably an article, throw out, and maybe still do the pod. I think there's 7 events or something like that. It will be covered. The tools are up there. Those will all be working, everything like that. We'll just kind of see how play it as it goes on the. It will be big for the Ryder Cup. We crushed President Cup last year. I built a tool that helps do all that. We'll run it back with the Ryder Cup. That'll be a fun week. I think that's in 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that as well. I'll be live Sunday morning. I normally go about 10:30 Eastern time, about 30 minutes, take questions, look at updates. That leads us up right about to when inactives come out. I finalize the rankings, all that stuff once inactives come out, and then we roll till lock at 1 Eastern. College football pod should be out today as well. Look for that from Mr. Berger. Again, he's been crushing it. College football has been printing money for us. Come check us out if you want. NFL 30 equals 30% off. Hope you guys have a great Friday, a great weekend. Looking forward to our first full NFL weekend and college football on top of that. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.